Okay, so welcome back from the video. Pretty controversial stuff when this popped off. I mean, it made national headlines. It even, made the presidential campaign race. The whole thing between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and it was debated back and forth. And I'm not trying to get anybody on any side of the political spectrum here. What I was just trying to show was how one little incident, one little 10-second incident in your life can just can devastate your career. And that's what I wanted to drive home. Now what did this officer do wrong? And this is a police officer. This wasn't a security officer. And by the way, I'm just going to put this out there. This is no way intended to slam the men and women of law enforcement. I have a deep respect for them, and they do one hell of a job out there that most of us are not able to do and not willing to do. They go through a lot out there and everything, and they deserve a lot of respect, and they deserve our help and our cooperation whenever possible. However, given based on the video that we saw here, the first thing that stood out to me was, number one, if this student was being disruptive, all the students should have been asked to leave the classroom. They should have been able to leave the classroom. Why was their kids being able to record this incident in the classroom? The kids should have been made to leave the classroom, and the officer would have stood by there with the teacher until an administrator could have arrived, or if he's on his way, and then they could have handled it from there. I mean, a lot of kids act out like this because they're seeking attention. They have an audience. The audience is their classroom. It's all their friends that are giggling and posting it on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook. Kids don't use Facebook anymore. It's all Instagram and Snapchat. I already feel like an old timer. But anyway, you have to deprive them of their audience. And that's all their little buddies standing around them and everything. So you get them out of the classroom, you kill the audience. There's no more showing off. There's no more show. And then you watch that young lady start to cooperate, especially when the parents are called and the parents are on their way. And that's how it should have been handled to begin with. I don't know why those students were allowed to stay in the classroom and recording on their cell phones. That's just outrageous in my opinion. I don't know how that happened. But, to be honest with you, I think this girl got under the officer's skin, and, he snapped. He snapped on her. He snapped on her. He let his emotions get the best of him, for one brief moment in time. He might have had an awesome career. And now because of this 10-minute incident, he's probably done. And then, there's videos of him powerlifting, and he's had prior incidences, and good or bad, it's going to come out. Whether you're right or wrong, everything you've done in the past is going to catch up to you in an incident like this. It's all going to come out for the whole public to see. So just be careful and, be calm. Remain calm. Do not let these kids get to you. Remember who's the kid and who's the adult. You're the adult, they're the child, they're the student. And, you have to keep that in mind. You're the adult and you need to act like an adult. They're children. They're going to act out. They're going to do things, that are just, outrageous. We all did as kids. You remember when you were a kid, you loved to test authority. You loved to test the boundaries of it and see what you can get away with. And sometimes it was funny to make the teacher mad, wasn't it? Well, that's how these kids are, and you can't allow yourself to fall victim to that. You have to maintain control of your emotions, and you have to remain tactful and professional at all times. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and let's move along, and let's wrap this portion of the course up. Your response should not cause further disruption. Isolate the person and or the situation, just like what we were talking about. Remove the bystanders. Staff members are excluded from this, and seal the area off. Make deliberate movements, especially if someone has a weapon. So, no surprise movements. Tell them, hey, I'm going to go over here. I got my hand. Tell them what you're going to do. No surprise movements. You don't want no accidents to happen. Call for assistance and let the site administrator know what is happening. Summon medical assistance if necessary, and keep an escape route open in case you need to get out in a hurry. Try to return the situation back to normal so that learning and the school day can continue. A minimum of 2 security personnel and an administrator should proceed to the classroom. Preferably someone who knows the student on site should be involved for immediate identification. Approach the classroom in a manner so as to avoid being seen upon approach. Be aware of open side doors, windows, and etc. Upon entering the room, the administrator should remain outside the classroom for their protection. If the identity of the student is known, campus security should proceed directly to the student without delay. One person is designated to make contact with the student and request that the student accompany the officer out of the classroom. The officer should then request the student immediately to accompany him or her to avoid arguing in the presence of other students. The contact officer will control the student in an approved hold while the second officer retrieves any items around the student, purse, backpack, books, etc. The second officer is used to prevent any students from interfering with the extraction process. Because believe me, they will. They're going to jump up and they're going to start yelling and screaming and, start yelling Attica and all kinds of crazy things. So, and if the identity of the student is not known, one officer will approach the teacher and discreetly determine who and where the student is located in the room and get their name and write it down in your handy-dandy notebook. The second officer will watch the students in the room for any suspicious or sudden action by the students. Because believe me, they'll try to hide things amongst each other. They're all going to start throwing their contraband to one person and everything, and you got to keep an eye out for that. Stay behind the student to observe his or her actions and to prevent their escape and destruction of any evidence involving other students, etc. After the student has been taken from the area, the officer should then return to the class and discreetly advise the teacher of what has taken place and why. The student is then removed from the classroom under positive control and taken to an area close by to perform a search for contraband. The search should be done immediately upon exiting the room. And this is for officer safety. We want to make sure that the student doesn't have any weapons to stick us with or, shoot us or anything like that. Now, of course, this is just a suggested or a guideline to follow. Some schools have different policies. Make sure that you are familiar with your campus police, and some schools may take a proactive approach or a passive approach as long as it's within the perimeters of the law. So, just make sure that you're getting familiar with your school policy and your administrator's policy before you take such action as we've discussed before. The risk of the student breaking free while in possession of contraband justifies the need to perform the search immediately, even if the search is conducted in an open area or in view of others and other students. After the search, the student is then escorted directly to the office. Allowing the student back into the room immediately after the incident could cause most teachers to lose control of the class. The student should not be allowed to return to class that day. If the cause for removal of the student was a report of a weapon and a report of a weapon was found to be false, the student should still be questioned as to why such a report came about. Parental notification should take place about the incident. If a weapon was found, the police should be notified prior to parental contact.